It's a terrible segue for our movie.
Yeah, well, I'll just jump into it. Welcome to Sorta Cinema. This week, we watched Grumpy Cat's Worst Christmas Ever.
What is that, you might ask? It's the
2014.
It's the 2014 Lifetime movie starring Aubrey Plaza as Grumpy Cat.
This is a movie entirely based on a meme that was on Lifetime. We watched it on Freevee. Want to hear a couple fun facts about Grumpy Cat?
Tell me about it.
So Grumpy Cat was named 2012's most influential cat by MSNBC, which apparently there's other influential cats, and Grumpy Cat's the most influential. Grumpy Cat is one of the few select non-humans to receive one of the Wall Street Journal's signature stipple portraits.
Oh.
Yeah, do you know stipple portraits?
No idea.
That's like we use like a little dots.
Oh, pointillism.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing, I think.
Pointillism.
Grumpy Cat is also dead now. I didn't know Grumpy Cat passed away in 2019 of a urinary tract infection.
R.I.P. Grumpy Cat.
Had a brother, and they both suffered from cat dwarfism.
Really?
That's why Grumpy Cat looks like that.
Did Grumpy Cat's brother die before Grumpy Cat, or is Grumpy Cat's brother still alive? Do you know?
I couldn't find any information about Grumpy Cat's brother, but Grumpy Cat, whose real name is Tartar Sauce, passed away in 2019 in its owner's arms of complications due to a urinary tract infection.
Aww.
Which is sad because we're never going to get a sequel.
So the movie opens at a mall. It's a Galleria, you said?
It's a Galleria mall somewhere in Ohio.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what town, but I'm going to assume it's the same one as Pumpkin Pie Wars.
There's Ohos in this mall.
There's a lot of Ohos in this mall.
It's typical Christmas fair. There's Santa Claus. There's
Carolers.
Christmas
Yeah.
And it's cut. It's interrupted.
Yes.
By Grumpy Cat, the real Grumpy Cat.
The real Grumpy Cat.
They didn't just get another cat that could act.
They didn't get a cat puppet. Mm-hmm. They got the real Grumpy Cat. And most of this movie, it's just the Grumpy Cat is just held in front of the screen and then just kind of waved around by someone off camera. And it's kind of off-putting because the whole time I was like, does this cat even want to be in this movie? There was nothing in the beginning of this that said like no cats were harmed in the making of this movie. I think Grumpy Cat died because of this movie.
Oh, no. And like we were saying, Aubrey Plaza is playing Grumpy Cat.
Aubrey Plaza's Grumpy Cat, and
she's pretty much just Aubrey Plaza. And the cat their lips don't move or anything like that.
No,
weren't you saying something like?
Yeah,
she had to re-record the lines. Like
so
Shrek?
she recorded like 90% of the dialogue under the guise that they were going to make Grumpy Cat's mouth move. Mm-hmm. But then I guess they got a studio note that said like they're not going to be making the cat's mouth move. So she re-recorded everything, and she said it freed up her performance and she was able to do a lot more things. I'm like, what did you do? You just recorded your voice.
Well, I was trying to be a cat before. And you see, if you're acting as though you're a cat, your mouth doesn't move that much. But if you figure that you're a cat that doesn't move its mouth, that completely changes my who, what, where.
Yeah, she got into the character of Grumpy Cat.
Grumpy Cat is the narrator of this movie.
Yeah, she is the through line. She is the narrator.
She knows that she's in a movie.
She does know she's in a movie. She references it a lot.
And she's like kind of how you expect Grumpy Cat to be.
Yeah.
She is kind of pessimistic about everything.
Very sarcastic.
Grumpy Cat lives in like a mall pet store or whatever. Mm-hmm. And she has the line, "Deck the halls, deck me in the face."
Yeah.
But get ready for this movie. If you want car chases, huge explosions, a hero in a leotard and cape, buckle in. And I'm like, that's Sorta Cinema.
Oh, yeah.
That's like most of the movies that we've watched.
That is most of the movies we've
Even
watched.
the ones that haven't had leotards and capes, we've made them superhero movies anyway.
We have. We've determined that they're all superhero movies. It's in this pet shop. We're introduced to this huge cast of other pets that can all communicate with each other. None of the animals can talk to people. That's important to note.
But when it cuts to this pet shop, this like little kind of guitar music starts playing, like banjo.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the Breaking Bad music.
Yeah, it is.
But I think it's supposed to show kind of the desolate, nature of this pet shop. There's nothing really exciting going on. It's
no.
Just,
an old lady comes in. You think that she's going to buy one of them. They're all excited. She's just buying fish food. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of movies like this where it's like pets at a pet store and they're all just like, someone adopt me, and then nobody adopts them. So they're not miserable.
Yeah.
They're just kind of like wanting to get adopted.
We meet Carla the snake.
Yes.
who
The snake.
has a Spanish accent.
He's got the lisp and everything.
We meet Jackie the dog, who's a little energetic.
He's like a little Jack Russell.
Wilson the parrot.
Yep.
Who's British.
Yeah, he sounds like Stewie Griffin.
And Lance the gerbil.
Yep.
And that's all of Grumpy Cat's friends hanging out there in the pet store.
Grumpy Cat's the only one not in a cage.
Yeah.
Just on like a cat bed. Looks miserable.
Mm-hmm. It turns out that Grumpy has been returned twice.
Yes.
She's been adopted and then returned twice to this pet store.
Yeah.
Not a very favorable cat.
While we're kind of getting this background of all these different cast of characters who don't come up as much as you would think.
No.
This dog comes in, Jojo.
Yeah, the pet store owner brings in Jojo, who describes themselves as a supermodel, super dog, super fur. Jojo is a Leon burger, and I describe him as a hunk dog.
Yeah, he's got like long flowing hair. He's really big. He's very majestic.
He's got this like voice. He's like, "Hey, I'm a supermodel.
Yeah,
I'm a super dog." You know,
in a different type of movie, I think maybe like a Patrick Warburton would have done his voice, but it's just people that I've never heard of. He's supposed to be like this kind of aloof supermodel dog, and he's apparently worth a ton of money.
$1 million.
Because he's purebred and he has this pedigree that makes him worth $1 million, which comes into play.
It comes from a long line of specialty dogs.
Yes.
And the pet store owner has this Leon burger, has Jojo, because he is under threat of eviction.
Yes, a 12-year-old child comes in. He's not actually 12. He's, I guess, probably in his 20s.
It's his landlord.
It's his landlord for his shop in this mall, and basically says, "You're back 3 months on rent.
Yeah,
I'm going to evict you. You need to do something about this."
And while he's like telling him this, he's like muttering like under his breath, but loud enough for him to hear it.
Yeah,
he's like, "Yeah. You haven't paid rent in 6 months, deadbeat." and the pet store owner is like, "Did you just call me a deadbeat?" And he's like, "No, of course. I'd never call you a deadbeat, but you are behind on rent, loser."
He looks so young.
Yeah, he looks like the kid who played Charlie in the new Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Not the newest one, just in case this episode comes out before Timothée Chalamet does his thing. But the not Jim Carrey. Johnny Depp one. Yeah. The kid who plays the good doctor.
Yeah.
They're pretty similar looking.
They are, just kind of very boyish faces.
Yeah.
I don't really know why they didn't cast a more like threatening like landlord type, but they cast a child.
They want you to know that he has all he has because of his father's money.
Yeah. He does look very trust fundy.
Yeah. And the pet store's owner whole plan is, one, he's got this Leon burger who's worth $1 million.
Yes.
And also he knows how memeable Grumpy Cat is, which doesn't come up again.
No.
But he's like kind of aware of the conceit of this movie.
Yeah.
And so mentions like, we could sell t-shirts. We could go all over the internet with it. Like at one point he's like,
he just looks at the camera and he goes, "Or make a Lifetime movie." So that is what I realized in this movie. I was like, oh, because he looks directly at the camera. I was like, this movie is going to be super self-aware.
And it knows it's a movie.
It knows it's a movie. It's going to talk about that it's a movie. It's going to talk about how weird it is. I didn't expect him to completely tear apart its own plot.
Yeah.
But it does.
It does. It does. It knows it's not only a movie, but that it's a bad movie.
Yes. And they even reference Lifetime movie tropes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty great. But the pet shop owner basically convinces this child landlord that he's gonna give him his money, but he just has to wait a little while. I don't know how he convinces him of that by just being like, "No, look, I'm going to give you money someday."
Like, I mean, if my landlord came in and was like, "Hey, you haven't paid rent the past 3 months. How are you going to like pay me? Like, you have to pay or you got to go?" And I was like, "Oh, don't worry. Like, I got this dog that's worth $1 million.
Yep.
And I also have this cat who I can post pictures of online." I would be evicted the next day.
You'd be evicted immediately.
And probably sent to some kind of mental hospital.
The dog ends up getting the prime real estate in the pet shop. He gets like a picture window.
And needless to say, Grumpy Cat is not happy about it. You could even say she's grumpy.
Oh, you know what? You just might.
She's very jealous.
She's very jealous.
We are introduced to the heroine of the movie.
Yes.
Grumpy Cat introduces Crystal, who is described by Grumpy Cat as having a great heart, being a great person, but a quote awful heroine, And it just reinforces the fact that Grumpy Cat doesn't like people or cheery things.
Or this movie.
Yeah, or happiness.
Yeah.
And then it does this weird thing where it cuts to Aubrey Plaza in a sound booth.
Yes.
And she's like, well, I'm glad that I'm not the heroine of this movie as Aubrey Plaza.
And then she looks great, by the way. she just looks at the camera in the sound booth recording the dialogue for this movie. This movie's really meta, and it's kind of trippy at points.
Yeah.
It's odd. I didn't expect to see Aubrey Plaza's face in the recording booth during this movie.
No. And like it gets brought up a couple times too that like the events of this movie may or may not be completely 100% true.
Yeah. Well, they're trying to act like it's based off a true story. And then like every once in a while they kind of exaggerate the details.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what this movie really is aside from just a giant meme marketing campaign to sell. I mean, they even say at multiple points in the movie that they're just trying to sell t-shirts and merch for Grumpy Cat, who, by the way, I looked up is worth over $1 million.
So Grumpy Cat is that Leon burger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they try to act like she's like above it all, but she's it's very upsetting. I don't like this movie.
Crystal walks into the mall and she like knows kind of everybody there.
Yeah, she like lives in the mall.
Yeah, she's like waving to all these guys. She's like, what's up, Alejandro? Like Brittany, like Brenda, Lizette, Brandon.
There's a whole bunch of people.
And they're all adults, but she's like good friends with them. And it cuts to her mom is in a like a diner.
It looks like Ruby Tuesdays. Yeah. I don't know. It's one of those like chain restaurants that pop up into malls.
And she's talking to an elf. and now that we're in the Christmas season, I'm not just calling people who look like elves.
This is elves. An actual elf.
He's a mall elf.
He's a mall elf for the mall Santa.
And this is going to be, it's just like, so Aubrey Plaza as Grumpy Cat comes on the screen as, and in this like weird little Cupid floating bubble. Everything pauses in the movie.
Yeah.
And she's like, this is just the B plot, but you don't really care about that, do you? This is the love story that we need to carry you throughout the entire movie. So this is, I mean, as Aubrey says, this is the love story that carries us throughout.
This is the love story that she says is required in like all Lifetime movies. Yeah. It's so annoying. It's like, no, stop doing our job, Aubrey Plaza. We say this.
And the elf guy, I don't even know his name. Jesse.
Yeah.
Jesse the elf starts, kind of flirting with her. And it's like, hey, like we should go out sometime. And she's like, better be careful. Like the last time this happened, it ended in a really messy divorce. And like we were watching it and I was like, were they married at one
We thought
point?
that they were married and he was trying to rekindle a marriage.
Yeah.
Turns out no.
Because Crystal comes in.
Her daughter.
Yeah. And Crystal's like, hey, Mom, you should go out with this guy. He seems really cool.
And he's been asking you out for months.
Yeah. So we kind of, like, through deduction and powers of reasoning, realized that she was married before.
Yes.
She's now divorced.
Yes.
And that line is to reference the fact that the last man to flirt with her it ended in a divorce.
Yeah.
Not the last time these two flirted with each other.
It is not clear while watching the movie. It very much feels like she's like, hey, last time we got together, we got divorced and stopped flirting with me. But that's not what happened. She was married to another person who, I'm just going to spoil it right now, left her for a barista.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's
someone who's chosen a coffee-making career.
It's someone... She's a server, and she's just like, I got left for a barista. I think there's this hierarchy of service workers. And the barista is somebody going to get left for what, like a nail tech?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm not one who can make really good coffee.
Yeah.
Because as a cafe worker, she could probably serve up some good coffee.
It's weird, like, and that B plot, and I know they references it as like, this is the B plot that doesn't mean anything in the movie, but for the record, this is a B plot that means nothing to this movie. It doesn't need to happen.
Crystal talks to her mom, and her mom is like, hey, like, don't you have to go to work?
Yeah.
And Jesse is like, wait, you work? And then, what's her mom's name? We never find out her mom's name.
She's just Crystal's mom.
And then Crystal's mom is like, well, no, she doesn't work, but like the guy who owns the pet store, like, tries to make her feel good and so gives her a job, and she kind of just helps out around. So Crystal leaves to go to her job,
her quote-unquote job,
and we meet George,
George, the security guard.
Yeah, he's always kind of trying to make himself seem like he's like a badass.
Yeah.
And like kind of lies to everybody. Like Grumpy Cat pops on the screen and goes, and now, introducing the security guard lady killer, George.
Yeah.
And George is like flirting with this lady in the mall and is like, yeah, I beat up this guy. He was trying to steal something. I saw him hanging around the designer jeans.
Yeah.
And it was like, is he racially profiling?
He was racially profiling. And then he actually says out loud, maybe I'm profiling.
Which pisses us off because this movie is too aware of itself.
It's like, stop referencing the things we were going to reference.
You don't know you're a movie. Shut up.
The security guard is, he seems like just a big exaggerator.
Yeah.
But kind to Crystal and nice and seems to be one of her only friends.
Yeah. And we kind of find out that Crystal doesn't really have many friends ever since her father left her mother for a barista.
Yeah. It's literally said that she hasn't been the same since the divorce. She doesn't want to be friends with anybody.
And it kind of reinforces that fact because there's 3 girls from her school.
Yeah.
They come walking up and Crystal's like, oh, hey, like, it's so good to see you. Like, I think we have 5th period together. And they're like, so?
It's the Mean Girls.
And she's like, well, I just figured, maybe we can hang out. And they're like, do we look like a bunch of losers?
Yeah. They don't like her.
While we were watching it, you were like, yeah, you kind of do. Because one of them has braces, which...
I also have braces.
Dude, I speak more to you than it does to anything. So I think if anybody's going to make the braces joke, it's going to be you.
Well, here's the thing. All 3 of those girls looked the same as Crystal. They didn't look like they were on... Usually in like a movie like this, the nerdy girl is like... You can tell just by looking at her, like, oh, she's the misfit. She doesn't get along with the other kids. They all look the same.
Yeah,
they're all
wearing,
dressed
like,
the same.
JC Penney.
Yeah, they all look like JC Penney models.
2015 catalog.
Exactly. There's nothing that distinguishes Crystal as being odd or weird.
Yeah, she needs to be wearing a dunce cap.
Yeah.
And they need to be wearing fake eyelashes.
Exactly. They need to do something so that me as the viewer could be like, yeah, Crystal's a fucking nerd. But she's not. She's just normal.
But the other girls do think that she's a nerd.
Yeah. Which I think speaks more to Crystal's character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of... that becomes the theme throughout the movie, is that she struggles to make friends and she's constantly looking for them. So that's what she needs.
Yeah, she spends time with the pet shop owner and George the security guard. And her mom seems like she wants her to get friends, but also like seems totally fine with her hanging out with adults.
Yeah, but it says like aloud, like, hey, you should go make some friends your own age.
Yeah.
But also like, these are some great adults that you can hang out with too.
Yeah. It's really odd.
And then we're introduced to these guys who refer to themselves as the Dragon Tails.
Yes, they are 2 members of a band called the Dragon Tails.
And they go to a jewelry store and they're looking for an engagement ring for the lead singer's soon-to-be fiance.
Yes.
And they're, talking about how the prices are good. They're asking for the most expensive one they have. They find out there's one for $8,000. And, he's like, what, you don't have anything more expensive? The lead singer.
Yeah.
And they walk away. And you're like, okay, I mean, I guess these are just like some rich asshole celebrity guys who, want like a nice ring.
Yep.
But that's not what's really going on here.
No, it's not. They end up talking to each other down the escalator. They have a stupid conversation about music. It's very dumb. Yeah. And
all of their dialogue is usually centered around kind of like I mean, I would say obscure because I wasn't born then, but you would probably say 80s.
80s rock references. Yeah. They're arguing about whether Hagar was the best lead singer for fucking whatever. Like, they're nerds about music. The one is very dumb. Mm-hmm. All of his dialogue is just to reinforce that he's very stupid. Mm-hmm. And the other guy tries to act like he's the guy that's in charge and he's not dumb. He's also dumb. They're both dumb. Turns out they were not looking for a ring.
No, the dumb one turns to his friend and says, if we were to rob that place, we wouldn't have enough to buy a bus.
Yeah.
There's probably only like $50,000 worth of stuff in there.
Yeah. It turns out they need the money to buy a tour bus. So they're going to rob a jewelry store in a mall.
And they're just pretending like they were buying a ring, but in actuality, they were casing it. They were checking it out. They're like, is this going to be enough? How do we make money?
Yeah.
And at the bottom of the escalator, after they have this conversation, they realize that there's a big commotion kind of going on in front of the pet store.
Yeah.
They see this entire crowd of people, this news reporter, and they see the Leon Burger, Jojo. Jojo is, strutting around, showing everybody his thing, and they overhear that Jojo is worth $1 million.
$1 million.
And they go, that's it.
Yep.
That's what we want to steal.
Yeah, they're going to steal the dog, which we talked about at length. How that would actually work. You can't just steal a dog and then sell it for $1 million.
Yeah.
And also, I'm sure that dog is chipped. I am sure that dog has all sorts of, you can't just steal a dog and then sell it.
Like, imagine going to your fence in Hawthorne or whatever, and you're like, hey, here's a TV, PS4, it's a brand new MacBook. Also, what do you think of this dog?
What do you think? $800,000?
Oh no, I got a guy for that.
It doesn't make any sense.
You want to sell this dog that you stole? I got you.
Oh God! While they're looking at the Leon Burger, the security guard kind of wheels by and he glares at him
because he knows
they're up to no good.
Yeah, he knows that badness is afoot.
Badness is afoot. They're wearing their leather. They're talking about Sammy Hagar. He knows. You guys
are up to no good.
You guys are up to no good.
And then it cuts to Crystal.
Yeah,
and Crystal is not going to her job. There's kind of this running theme throughout these podcasts where I'm like, should this person be working? Why are they drinking? Why are they smoking on the job? This is a 12-year-old girl who works at a pet store, and I'm like, she's not working.
She's not working.
What is she doing?
She's sitting on a bench in the mall off the clock.
Yeah, and she's sad, but she was supposed to go to work. And she's sad because she doesn't have any friends. Nobody likes her.
Yeah.
And so the mall Santa comes over and starts talking to her.
The mall Santa, played by Russell Peters.
And it's not the same mall Santa that we saw before.
No.
It's Russell Peters, who is a new... He's kind of got this mysterious thing going on.
His beard's half falling off. He's supposed to be kind of a disheveled... I don't know.
He was supposed to be the mall for the Windsor Mall, a town over or something like that.
Yeah.
And that he's just filling in for his friend who's supposed to pick up his daughter from the airport. Something like that.
Yeah. I think his wife was at the airport. So he's filling in and he sits down next to Crystal. And he's like, why are you so sad? What's going on? She's like, I don't have any friends. Nobody likes me. And I work at a pet store, but I don't get paid.
And he's like, well, I've got this magic coin.
Yeah.
If you make a wish and throw this coin into a body of water or a well, all your greatest wishes will come true.
But he kind of undercuts it.
I bought it from www.magicalcoins.uk.co.
Yeah.
/cans.com.
That's literally the website. He doesn't try to pass it off as magical. He says, I just hand these out to kids that I see that look like they're having a bad Christmas.
Yeah.
So here you go, make a wish and throw it in. And she does, and she wishes that she could make a friend.
Yeah. And, that's that. Russell Peters leaves, and she's made this wish.
Yeah, and we don't know why he showed up, and we don't know where he came from, but he's on there because the mall Santa is picking up his wife from the airport.